Yo, what's up, everybody? Hope everybody's having an amazing Tuesday. It is Tuesday, March 10th. I'm having a great day so far. It is 12 p.m. Noon in California where I'm at. It's a beautiful day. I hope everybody's having a great day themselves. Again, interesting time since we last got on stream on Friday. Again, I was supposed to get on here at 11:30 today. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. The last few weeks, I've been really trying to make an effort to get on here right at 11:30. I know everybody has a lot of stuff going on, and I appreciate everybody for coming on to spend their time with me on these streams. Hope everybody, like I said, has a great week so far. It's been an interesting week since interesting week since we've been on last few days. A lot has changed with the Iran conflict. Oil was up crazy. That's what everybody was talking about. Went up, gapped up 20%, down 10% yesterday. Yeah, I know. We'll talk a lot about that kind of stuff as well. Before we go and get started, for the people here so far, if you guys could like, comment, retweet, get those bookmarks going, that'd be amazing. Um, Let me know two things before we get started. I see a few people in the chat. I will be doing a USDC giveaway as well towards the end of the stream, to somebody who comments or who somebody in the comments of the stream tweet here. Let's see. Let me share my screen. Somebody in the comments of the stream tweet here, I'll be picking randomly 100 USDC giveaway. So I appreciate everybody for being on. Like I said, one thing before in the chat, before we get started, we'll be talking about Bitcoin as well. As you guys can see the title of the stream, Bitcoin, is it going to repeat the January kind of, I'll pull up the chart here real quick. Why is this slowing? My computer's slow. I apologize. It's weird. Damn it. It's being really slow. We're going to go over whether this price action here in November, where it slowly chopped up, there is some similarities here that I am seeing. We'll go over whether Bitcoin is going to kind of repeat that pattern. And again, the reason why this matters for anybody, even if you don't buy Bitcoin, you're an NFT person, you're an ETH person, you trade meme coins. Really big on this, that Bitcoin, everybody should be paying attention, or at least looking at it, because it drives the entire market. When Bitcoin, why is my trading view so slow? When Bitcoin is, as we can see, going up, it bottomed out in 2022, went up from 15K all the way to 125K or whatever in that 2.5 years. Every time that Bitcoin's going up, the entire market is popping. The meme coin space is going off. Pump fund coins are going up. Why is this so slow? Damn it. Pump fund coins are going up. The entire market is ripping. And then obviously, as we've seen the last few months, when Bitcoin is coming down and in this kind of bear market, the entire market just goes quiet. So what Bitcoin does next will determine what the entire market, even stuff like as NFTs, does over the next few months. Here, let me try to reload this. Okay, we should be good here. But as you guys can see here, though, let's go ahead and get into it. Bitcoin last month, November and to December, bottomed out here. And to me, I thought Bitcoin, because of the strong consolidation here that we were seeing in November, that there was a good chance we were going to go to 100 plus, maybe 105K before we saw an eventual kind of move down. But as you can see here, it shocked a lot of people, went barely to 97K, and kind of formed this little wedge or corrective channel structure, as I like to call it. This structure right here tells us that, yes, price was going up, but it was doing it in a very choppy manner, right? Whenever price is chopping up slowly like this, it tells us that likely it's corrective, and very likely, I like to call them coil ups, right? This is a coil up to the upside. Most of the time you think of a coil up, it's to the downside, right? So it's a lot easier to think about. But this is the same kind of concept. It's coiling, it's going up, but it's going up in a very tight manner. And very often when you see price move in these tight little coil ups or channels, they very often reverse very quickly. It's we see it to the other side all the time here. Damn, my internet connection must just be ass right now. It's unfortunate. Try to fix this, but I appreciate you guys for bearing with me. But as you can see here, we see it to the upside all the time. Holy shit. I'll try to refresh the page. But we see these corrective structures that the coil ups to the upside all the time, meaning when Bitcoin is was going up in like a bull market, right? We see these kind of coil ups right here, as you can see in April, these nice kind of corrective coil ups where price is going down, but it's in a very choppy manner. You see bounces in between. Usually that points to corrective behavior, right? You're seeing the same thing here. What we're seeing to the opposite side here, now that Bitcoin's kind of in this bear market, I believe is the same kind of thing, but to the opposite direction, right? We saw it in January. Now, the question is, as you can see, that kind of corrective like structure led to a big move down in Bitcoin. The break of that structure kind of right here was really if you were shorting this market or you were just kind of looking for a confirmation, that would be the confirmation that we're going lower. I personally think, without getting too much into this, I do think that Bitcoin is showing a lot of similarities, as you can see, right? We formed this bottom here, but price has been chopping very slowly up here. What I believe is likely to happen is kind of, especially because of how slow price has been moving up here since last night. I think what's likely to happen here, guys, is it doesn't have to happen from here. We could definitely move up in the short term. Maybe we tag 72, maybe we tag 73. But what I'm kind of looking for over the next few days, very likely, is I think Bitcoin's probably going to do something like this and probably fall again. That's kind of my base case. Again, just by looking at this chart structure that we see here from January to here, a lot of similarities, a lot of, again, this is kind of my bread and butter. Oftentimes you'll see me, we're in a bull market. I'll talk about corrective channels or corrective coil ups, which again, you oftentimes see price in these coil ups where it's going up or down, but it's in a very slow, choppy manner with very a lot of bounces. Often at times that's a sign that it's going to reverse. And I think there's a good shot we're going to do that here. Now, again, with that being said, I am DCAing into Bitcoin and ETH as if this is the bottom here, right? I would love to be able to buy Bitcoin at 55K, but I want you guys to know, like, I'm in no way like a bear, or do I think that we're gonna go be in this 2 or 3 year bear market. I'm just learned over the last year or so, especially, to just call it how I see it. I'm a long term bull as anyone on crypto, especially Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, and even in like the midterm. I think that next year is going to be a very strong year for crypto, and very likely even, maybe Q3, Q4 this year could be very strong. But when I see corrective kind of chart structures like this, I've learned to, especially like, the last year, to have my long-term views, have long-term time horizon. But also, I personally like to speculate and talk about these kind of short-term price patterns. Which, again, if you're just a buy and hold person, you don't care. You're a buy and hold person. This shouldn't really matter to you. But if you're somebody who, is collecting NFTs, or you're kind of trying to, determine where the market's going to do over the next few months, this is definitely stuff interesting to look at. So yeah, I think chart structure is telling us very likely that we're looking at a January type coil up for Bitcoin that could lead to a move down. That's kind of my base case. Now let's go over some entries for maybe a long or a short entry. If you do perps, I've started again to on these streams. I do want to start giving actual entries and stuff that I'm looking for in the perps market. So that we can talk about potential, again, not financial advice. This is just what I'm doing, but to show you guys what I'm actually doing in the market as far as entries and all that, so you could at least get a feel for what I'm seeing, and potentially help add to your repertoire. So as you can see here, like I said, Bitcoin's been chopping up. What ideally a great entry would be is if Bitcoin were to tag the top of this corrective channel again, maybe at 73, 74K. Right there, I would definitely short pretty heavily, especially on a failure. Really, the kind of confirmation that I'd be looking for to kind of short this. would be is if it closed below this channel. So something like here would be like a really ideal entry for that. But really, you want to see it come up here. But too many times I've seen structures like this where it'd be perfect if it were to go down up here, but it just falls apart before that happens. So right now, again, not financial advice. This is just currently what I'm doing. I am short here on ETH at around 2045. Again, it could easily go back up one more time. My stop loss is again at around 2200. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for here on ETH. I will be, and if it were to spike up here and stop me out, I would look for another entry. Again, on this would be kind of a perfect entry if you're looking for a short and more of like a high probability, as if it were to cross below the corrective channel. Right there, that's the very high probability move right there. Instead of trying to guess, trying to short up here and it potentially continue to go higher. That's your really high probability entry right there on a short. Now, if you're more looking for a long entry or something that invalidates the setup I'm looking for, this is what I would be looking for on a long entry for ETH right now. Okay. Is if ETH, instead of doing what I'm saying here and doesn't chop up here, instead says, F this channel and just continues to go up. What I would be looking for a long entry is a move back above this consolidation high at 2100 and then some type of pullback. Okay. Now, honestly, we don't always get these pullbacks after these moves, but that would kind of be the ideal entry there for a long entry where it would invalidate the setup I'm talking about now. Where is this? Invalidate the setup we're looking at now. That the short entry, but a pullback right there. That would be really the ideal entry for a long setup. And at that point, if we were to invalidate this and go above 2100, I think if we go back to Bitcoin, if it were to close above 72, let's say, if we were to close above 72 and do something like this and close here, I'd be looking for that pullback right here. That would be like an ideal long entry here on ETH. Shit, where is it? Like something like that. That would be, when it's already closed above this high here at 72K and then pulls back. But either way, if you don't trade perps, I advise, if you haven't traded it already, right now, the best thing to do is buy and hold great assets. Bitcoin itself, guys, is down 50%. You meaning just Bitcoin, the biggest asset in crypto, you're essentially getting a 2x just back to all-time highs. There's plenty of assets that we can talk about here later, other than ETH and Bitcoin, that will produce even bigger gains if you're DCAing and willing to stay patient over the next few months. The biggest gains, the biggest breakthroughs, the biggest 5-10x's that I've ever done on my portfolio have come from one thing. Not from hitting some home run play, even though those help. It's from buying and holding coins, great coins, during these corrective periods. And sometimes you take 10, 20, 30%, 40% drawdown, even on something like Bitcoin. But they're high quality coins, and that when the crypto market does recover, those are the biggest gains that I've ever had. Again, 2020, when I took 5 figures up to a lot more, multiple 6 figures, where I was able to kind of do crypto full time, was from literally finding coins on YouTube, buying them when not a lot of people were talking about them, when crypto, the bull market, we're still kind of in a bear market, and then selling on the way up. It's really that simple. It just takes patience. And yeah, so I think that's what we're going to happen in Bitcoin and ETH. We're very likely going to, I think, tag maybe 73, come down here. I could see another move down. If we were to get into the 50s in Bitcoin, guys, I will be buying a lot of Bitcoin and ETH and NFTs especially, which I really want to talk about. I think, NFTs, certain NFTs right now that are at like one ETH, that let's say ETH were to go down to, 1800, 1500, 1600, and that one, that ETH NFT is now $1,500. Stuff like that. I personally will be buying a lot of, VFriends, Quirky, stuff like that at that time. So yeah, for me, I'm short right now with the understanding that we could easily spike back up. And that's kind of the invalidations I'm looking for. Bitcoin, if it were to close back above with daily candle close above 2100 and then pulled back, I probably would look to get long. But long, short, up, down. This is just stuff for fun for people who like to trade perps or like to speculate on this stuff. If you're somebody in the chat who's just pulling up here, you don't give a shit about perps or any of this stuff. Buying and holding is just the key during these times. There's not a lot going on, but the people who continue to stay focused and most in all just buy and hold, watch streams like this. We'll go over some ways here in a second where you can kind of most utilize your time. But that's really the name of the game. The name of the game is really buying and holding during these times, survive and surviving, not blowing yourself up, not chasing low cap meme coins to try to, you know, make back the money that you lost. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Let me know in the chat. By the way, I know I just went on a nice little rant there. Let me know if that was helpful. Let me know if you agree. Do you guys think Bitcoin is gonna head up from here? Do you think it's potentially going to see a January type pullback to the downside? Um, and then also let me know where you're tuning in from as well. Uh, what's up, guys? I'm seeing a lot of homies in the chat would love to win the giveaway. Yeah, we'll be doing that giveaway here probably at the top of the hour. Love to see you streaming. Yeah, I've been kind of on and off, maybe like averaging one time a week streaming, but I'm getting back to it 11:30 a.m. every week. I know a little bit late today, but I had a technical difficulty. Been pretty on point with getting on right at 11:30 a.m. PST every week. Have some cool good guests lined up. I'm actually gonna having someone help me line up guests as well. So we're gonna have some. If you haven't already, go check out the stream from Poppy a couple weeks ago. That was a great conversation. We're gonna have a lot more of those coming up. Crypto Basant says, I think it will be a good thing for Bitcoin to reach new lows as it confirms where we're at instead of confusing everyone in the choppy market. Good thing for Bitcoin to reach new lows as it confirms where we're at. Yeah, I think the I don't know. The quicker we move down, I think, into these low numbers, the higher chance that we're gonna end the bear market in, like, let's say June or July versus later on in the year. But who knows? Timing as far as time, like saying something's going to happen in this month, this week, trying to put a time on anything in crypto, I've found to be the most difficult and kind of the most pointless. The same setup that we're looking at now could play out in a week and then also play out in 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Time, I think just focusing on structure and principles are the key, and trying to throw a time, I think, or asking when do you think is going to happen this week or this month? It's anybody's guess what's going to happen in a certain time, but it's focusing on the structure or the principles. So yeah, I agree. Crypto Basant. Once we are really down, we only have one direction to go. Yeah. Good day, Brandon. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, I was thinking to sell my ETH and Sol to buy more Bitcoin, but I don't know. Might just keep everything. So that's I think a dilemma that everybody kind of faces during these kind of corrections or these bear markets. It's like, oh, a lot of the people that I really, like to listen to are saying that we're going to go down. I think I should probably sell everything to try to rebuy lower. The reason why, even myself, who I think is not always, but pretty good at determining these price moves, I don't like to sell spot bags like Bitcoin and ETH and try to buy back lower. My Bitcoin and ETH are just to accumulate more of, essentially. That's my goal, is to accumulate more of them. Sometimes I'll buy NFTs and swap them into other things, but I don't like to buy spot coins because, again, I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong, and Bitcoin doesn't come down again and it just rockets to 90K from here. And at that point, anybody who's experienced that feeling where you sell a good part of your bag and then it rips up against you, it's the most tough feeling. It's like, do I re-enter or do I risk buying the top? Because again, if you're wrong the second time, it's like even more fucking, you know what I mean? So it kind of just stops you in your tracks. So I found the best thing to do is just DCA and use dry powder to buy more. And definitely, if you're going to do something like that, I know a lot of people rotate and actually do really well doing that. I would do it with smaller parts of your portfolio. I wouldn't sell your entire Bitcoin or ETH bag because who asked this? Saad. Let's say that something came out tomorrow where China bought Bitcoin or the US bought Bitcoin with gold, the gold reserves or whatever, And Bitcoin just does some shit like this, right? Where it just rips straight, in a few weeks, just or ETH just rips to 4,800, and you sold here because you were trying to buy back, 30 or 40% lower. Like, you would never be able to forgive yourself, right? Like, I've seen this happen so many times. So if you're going to do something like that, if you're going to try to rotate and try to buy back lower, I would do it with a smaller part of your portfolio. Do not try to rotate in and out completely. I've seen that go wrong so many times. Where's your stop loss on ETH? That's a good question. So it's 2045. So as you guys can see right here, guys, it's kind of coming down. I've seen so many times. It doesn't mean it's going to happen here. Don't get me wrong. I've seen so many times where I've expected, the ideal setup where it's going to tag, it's going to tag the top of the channel one more time, and I'm going to be able to get a short entry in right here, and it just literally collapses like from here. So doesn't mean that's what's going to happen here, but yeah, I think it's interesting price action. And if this was an impulse to all-time highs, I think we'd very likely see Bitcoin just start to shoot up with big green candles. The fact that we're chopping very slowly here, I think is very telling, and points to the likelihood that we come down, I think, more than likely once more. But yeah, S&P 500, I also think is in a kind of corrective coil up here. As you guys can see, it has been coiled up very choppily and is a perfect example of what I was talking about maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago, where corrections, which is one of the three major phases that any asset is in at any given time. Okay. Every asset, doesn't matter. You're looking at any chart. We're talking Bitcoin, we're talking crypto, oil, metals, stocks. They have candlestick charts like this. They're all in one of these three phases I'm about to go over. First one, impulse. Impulse is the easiest one to spot. It's the big moves up, the big green candles, the big 1, 2, 3 month, 2-year moves. This is an impulse here I'm looking at on the S&P 500. Okay, big move up from November of 23 all the way to March of 24. Corrections are the next phase. They come in between. They're the pullbacks or the cool off periods in between the corrections, and then we have peaks, which are tops or bottoms. Okay, each of these characteristics, or each of these phases, have distinct characteristics that we can look for in order to determine where we're going next in the market. Okay, so when I talk about a correction or a corrective channel, that means that it's a correction that I'm looking at. I'm thinking that because of the structure that it's looking at, that it's a correction. Corrections oftentimes move down, like I said. So they're oftentimes confused for like an actual big move down, an impulse, but they're very choppy. Whereas impulses are big moves up or straight down. Corrections are choppy instead. They chop down slowly. What this tells me is, again, price is coiling up and slowing down before the next explosion up. Okay? That's what the S&P 500 is telling me right now. It's telling me that we could very well come back down to 6,500. As you can see, we got the big October correction. It came down for, 2 or 3 weeks, right? We even saw the April correction. That one came down for a lot longer. So while this is a correction, in my opinion, it could very well come down another 5 or 10%. But as we track it coming lower in this structure, it becomes very obvious to me that I think the S&P 500 could come down for a few more months, but I think is just like crypto, going to explode into the end of the year. Okay, and that could come in June, that could come in, August, could come in September for all I know. But I think that's what the chart is telling me. Apart from all the other stuff with QE, QT ending, QE, potentially starting up again with rates coming down. A lot of stuff going on with the war and all that too. But I just want to show you guys here. Hopefully you're learning some of this stuff that I'm talking about with the charts. But that's one thing that I think everybody can look at a chart and start to utilize today, is looking for corrective behavior versus impulsive behavior. If you're in the middle of an impulse where the chart is going straight up and no pullbacks, generally you don't want to enter there, right? That also tells us you don't want to enter in the middle of an impulse. You want to ideally enter during corrections when price is pulled back. Not as many people are talking about it. Everything's kind of cooled off, right? So just to go over a few more chart things before we move on to some other stuff. I think the S&P 500, again, is in a correction and very well could continue lower for the next few months with some bounces in between. Also, we have the dollar kind of chilling right under a very important low as well. If we start to see the dollar kind of move back above 100, I think we're going to get a bigger bounce in the dollar, which again could lead to that kind of last or move down in crypto that I'm talking about. So, interesting level to keep an eye on as well. And then, a few other coins that are looking good on here. I think, all the majors are looking pretty decent. Even something like SUI has kind of been consolidating here. But again, I think that if Bitcoin comes down, we're going to see all the majors come down. The coins that I am potentially that I'm going to add to on the way down here is Bitcoin. I'm going to buy as much Bitcoin as I can. ETH I think is probably the best risk to reward bet you can make in crypto on the way down here. Meaning, it's the second biggest coin in crypto. It's down over 50%. If it goes lower and down 70%, all of the big institutions in the world have said they want to build on Ethereum. They've said they want to put all the markets on chain, making Ethereum kind of their biggest, at least for now, their chain of choice. I think that's the easiest, long term bet in crypto on the way down here. But I'm also diving still into a select few movement coins, the MOGs, SPX, Gigas, Trolls. I'm sticking to 4 or 5 of these that I feel are really going to stick it out of these corrections, because the movements, the memes, the few meme coins that survive, I think are going to go on for crazy gains. With that being said, I think 98% of them are dead and never going to come back, just like NFTs. But the select few that do, I think in 2026 are going to go on to have incredible gains, and probably survive long term. So we can go over some of that as well. But yeah, that's kind of how I see the majors playing out. Again, if you own 0 Bitcoin, you're an NFT person, you're a meme coin person. I think it's still important to at least kind of know where you're at, where Bitcoin's at, because it drives the entire market. As you guys can see, the shit is coming down hard now here too. Um, you know, it could definitely do something like this. Don't get me wrong. Like, it could definitely play with this channel here for a while and just continue to chop. But again, when you see price action that's slowly chopping up, usually it means that it's going to reverse to the downside, and that move up is just a corrective move. Okay. So go and run the tape back if you want to kind of see more of a explanation from me. I just went into like a 20-minute rant on this. But if if ETH is able to close below this channel, ETH or Bitcoin, this channel at 70K, I think it's going to be off to the races. I think it's going to attack the 63K low. And if it breaks it very impulsively, again, with big red candles, that's what you kind of want to look for. Big red candles, then I think we very well could creep into the 50s for what will probably be the final low for Bitcoin. If that were to happen, I think that this will probably be the ideal thing. Again, this is just a guess. I could see something like this and that finally be the low where we kind of put in that bottom to kind of maybe end the year. I don't know where this is at right here. This would be around March. So maybe we chop into summer and then we get that move up and maybe close the year up. If I had to guess, maybe we close the year up, but not all the way back to that all-time high yet. Okay. Let me know in the chat if that makes sense to you. Am I completely fucking crazy? You know, again, Bitcoin, I that's kind of the ideal setup for me. That I would love to happen. But not only that, but I think that's kind of what the chart is kind of telling us for now, guys. I think Bitcoin is until proven otherwise, is kind of in this kind of corrective coil up structure that leads to probably another move down. Again, with that being said, if Bitcoin were to go up today, my portfolio, my bags are packed. That's not for me to hedge and to say like, oh, well, if I'm wrong, I'm still like. It's just to say that don't bet your entire crypto life on crypto, or your entire bag, your portfolio on Bitcoin coming down here, because this is just what I see with the charts. I'm right a lot of times. Sometimes I'm wrong. Like I said, I thought Bitcoin was going to go higher here last couple months ago. I've been pretty much spot on these streams for most of these Bitcoin moves over the last few years, but I could very well be wrong on this one too. I could be wrong here, and I would hate for you to sell your entire crypto bag as Bitcoin rips to 120K. That's not how my portfolio is set up. My spot portfolio is set up to where if we were to go up here, I would be more than happy. But I think the charts, this is just what it's telling me, so let me know if that makes sense to you in the chat. I do want to go over a lot of other stuff today here as well. The Iran war, a lot has changed since Friday when we were last on. We'll look at some poly market stuff. We'll look at some great setups in other coins that I think are doing well. In the chat, let me know some coins you want me to look at, some memes, some alts, whatever else. Leave some questions in there. I'm definitely going to get to that in a second here. I want to retweet the stream here really quick myself. If while I'm doing this myself, if you guys could please like, comment, retweet the stream, that'd be much appreciated as well. Here, let's see. We're live. We're live. We're live. Pull up. All right, cool. Let me get back to the chat here for a second. And again, we're going to do that USDC giveaway in probably about 25, 30 minutes. One second here. But yeah, let me get back to the chat real quick before we move on. What is your stop loss on ETH? I think I went over that. What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother? Am I DCing into Sol? Yeah, Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol I've been buying. Mostly ETH, but mostly ETH. Brent, I'm seeing more and more people, influencers, streamers, etc., calling for 40K Bitcoin. Again, I understand we don't know for sure, but what's your thoughts? Yeah, no, that was 18 minutes ago. So I hope you caught my 30-minute rant here on exactly that. But to me, I think there's so many reasons to be long-term, mid-term, extremely bullish on crypto. Me, I am the fucking bullish bull on crypto long-term and even in the midterm. But I would be, stupid to, ignore the obvious kind of chart signals, that this kind of stuff that I personally look at. A lot of people don't look at this stuff. They don't care about it. Whatever. They're just going to buy and hold and whatever. But this is what the charts are telling me. I look at certain stuff like this. I see this kind of corrective coil up like we saw in January. And again, I wasn't even the one who was seeing. I wasn't even seeing this. I thought that this was going to go to 100, 102, 103 before we fell down. But now in hindsight, I kind of took a step back over the last few weeks and realized, okay, like my system actually kind of, if I would have been paying attention and not kind of had a bias here that this consolidation was going to lead to a bigger bounce, I would have seen that my system actually showing a kind of a reversal here from this kind of corrective coil up. So this time I'm trying to, take a more retrospective, kind of take a step back this time, kind of taking all the information. And this is, again, what the lower time frame, mid time frame, whatever setup is showing us. Again, if we were to close above 75K with some weekly candle closes, and it just goes right above that high, then that setup would be, what's it called? Invalidated. But for now, I think this is a very, very likely possibility. And, maybe we get to buy some sub 60K Bitcoin or ETH later this year. So, again, extremely bullish on, long term, but gotta call it how I see it here. And I could be wrong. We could close above 72K tomorrow, and I would be extremely happy. My net worth, my quality of life, the vibes on crypto Twitter, everything, the Telegram channel that I run, everything would be better. But again, I'm just calling how I see it. As far as the chart setup right here. So let's see. If history repeats, do we expect consolidation first before the next leg up? I would expect either consolidation above 72K and a move up, or a kind of this leg down that I'm kind of depicting here. Yeah, Greeny and Craig are great. I'm glad you were able to find them. Yeah, Greeny and Craig are one of the few people I'd recommend, who have stayed consistent and all them. They're great. They I like how their show structure. I'm trying to really start having more of a structure in my shows and having kind of these stories pulled up and all that. So I really admire the stuff that they're doing as far as production, and they've been pretty spot on with everything. So shout out to them. From Morocco, love the insights. They helped me a lot through the week. I'm glad to hear that. I know I've been, like I was saying on the top of the show, I've been was really on for about a year and a half, twice a week, spot on like every single week. But over the last few months have, definitely missed some shows and everything. Market's been down. I could make all the excuses in the world, but I'm happy to be locked in again with the streams. Had a 6 stream couple last week with Poppy. Probably one of the best interviews, or like the best kind of guests, at least one of my favorite ones I've had on. So looking to have a lot more of that this year when the market's down. Not just NFT founders or traders, but like people who have kind of interesting stories and all different kinds of things. Like even some weird stuff, like whether it has to do with crypto or finance, AI, any of that type of stuff. Please shoot me a DM. If you or anybody you know have some cool stories or something that you think would be fun on the show. In a, is it a bad idea to hold alts? All of mine are down bad. It depends, man. Like depends what they are, right? I think alts, when you're talking non-meme coins, I think a lot of the AI stuff, like the TAOs, like that kind of stuff, has potential to do really well. But there's probably some 2021 type alts that will either bleed to zero or like not really get outperformed by a lot of other stuff. So I've been really focusing on Bitcoin, ETH, Sol. Usually those are the ones that lead the market. Bitcoin, ETH, Sol move up, and then memes and stuff will come after. And a lot of times we get that little grace period, or that little period where we're able to rotate a lot of these things. We're able to rotate our ETH that just went up 30-40% into these other stuff. That's really the biggest thing I've learned over the last few months. I've been a buy and hold guy. I'll hold stuff through 50-60% drawdown sometimes, and then they'll go on to 10x. I've been really learning to strike while the iron's hot, and then focus really on concentrated bets, and then kind of when the market's hot, then kind of rotate into some of this other stuff. I may miss some gains, but also it's just a better system, I think, instead of kind of DCing kind of blindly and all that. But I wouldn't call it blindly. But is it a bad idea but yeah, to answer your question, depends what it is, man. You'd have to let me know. I can give you my thoughts. How do you get your dry powder without a real job? Do you somehow get it via trades? So yeah, everybody's different. Me personally, I have a lot of stables, you know, saved up from taking profits last year. Again, during April, during the, I'll pull up the chart. During April, if you guys have been on the streams, you remember this. During April, this time right here, during, summer of 2024, I was buying a lot of the movement memes, a lot of the different meme coins, and then taking a lot of profits on the way up and kind of rinse and repeating, right? This time around, we obviously got a kind of a start of a bear market, right? But for a long time, I was taking a lot of profits on each of these dips. We've had White Whale do really well, had a 50x last year, USDC, Pengu, all of that. So luckily I've had the luxury, the blessing to be able to, have some dry powder from trades, from other stuff that's produced income, but yeah, mostly from trading, and really taking profits, being, knowing when to buy during times like this, and then taking profits on the way up when everybody else is super hyped up. Right. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. If you're kind of asking what anybody else should do, I think that's a great question. I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about my story, right? Like I don't live in a third world country. Like I live in the United States. I live in California. Um, I won't go into too much detail, but like very like probably one of the most expensive places to live in the United States. And so like but I still, as I don't know how many years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years into when I started trading crypto, like after that first kind of bear market in 2016, 2017, I really wanted my goal was to be like, at that time was Forex and crypto, but to like be full time and make money and kind of live off of trading, right? Like that was my goal, and I had to go work not one but two shitty jobs for one for most of the time, kind of switching off, but and a lot of small jobs and stuff, try to earn money so that I could put money into the market and trade and learn and buy crypto, right? And so do not be afraid if you're 21, 20, 30, fuck, like during this time, it's annoying and it's so slow, but it's such a blessing. We get to buy some of these great assets at such low prices that really could change things for you if you're able to add, you know, some money into these things. So I don't know. Everybody has a different situation. Different countries. It's not as easy. I know a lot of these guys I talk to in Africa and Asia. It's not as easy to get a job, especially in not high paying jobs, but especially if you're in the US right now, you're a kid, like don't be so caught up on you have to be like full time trading. Like do not be afraid to go get a job because it could be kind of what takes you to be able to go full time and do it for a living and shit. Sometimes you really need to like just eat shit for a little bit. What about Soul? You didn't say your DCA. Oh yeah, I already answered that. When we move up, your bag should be packed. Been doing it for 3 years now. This is the way. Yep, yep, yep. I see a lot of big institutions stacking. I see a lot of big institutions stacking and building on ETH. I'm expecting 5K. Yeah. Yo, Carl, what's up, brother? How you doing? How you doing? If you're just pulling up, we're going over the Bitcoin charts and how I think there's a lot of similarities between what we're seeing here in November and through January and what we're seeing now. We went over some invalidations again. If Bitcoin is able to crush through this corrective channel here I've drawn, I think it does go back down and attacks this low at 60 and potentially makes one more low in the 50Ks over the next couple months. And at that point, I think it is a good chance we see something like this and do get that final bottom in the summer, September, maybe end of the year. Probably won't play out perfectly to this, of course, but I could see something roughly like this playing out. And then we went over the invalidations. If Bitcoin were to close with a weekly candle close back above this high that it made here at 73K or really 72K back in a few weeks ago, at that point, that would be invalidated, and I probably would be looking for long entries at that point. But again, I think there's a lot of similarities between what we saw in December, January, and what we're seeing now. If you're a buy and hold person, you're really thinking 1, 2, 3, 5 years out. You don't give a shit about short-term price action. You can honestly tune this out. If Bitcoin goes to 50K, you buy more. But I know a lot of guys in here, especially now that the market's not a lot's going on, are looking to speculate on these short-term moves or really just want to know where Bitcoin's at so that if they're buying NFTs or they're buying whatever else, can maybe potentially time or do whatever, time things more perfectly, or if you only have a certain amount of money, maybe buy more optimally if we were to get a setup like this. So if we were to get a setup like this, I hope whoever is watching is able to more capitalize, whether it be to the short side or maybe waiting or capitalizing on some buys of crypto or NFTs on the way down, then that'd be great. That's what I'm hoping for. But if we were to go up from here, just the same. In fact, like I said a second ago, my net worth, my crypto, my the business and the Telegram, like everything would be better if this were to do the opposite. But again, I just want to call what I see in the markets and not try to just play a role and just be a blind bull all the time. When you have a limited capital, how do you decide if it is to buy and hold guy or be a day trader? That is an amazing fucking question as well. I'm gonna try to say this like in a 1 minute or less. I think always, as you guys can see, I'm a chart guy. You'll see a lot of charts on there. I have speculator in my bio. I kind of switched it around, kind of put it third on my thing. But for a while, it's just a digital asset speculator. You see a lot of charts on my thing. You probably think, oh, this guy is a chart guy. He's probably just, just speculating on short-term price action. And while I do that, anybody who's watched the content, they know me. They know that I'm a very long-term person in crypto. I'm all about long-term patience, seeing long-term time horizon, how crypto is going to absolutely swallow the entire financial world and all this stuff. And that first and foremost, I'm an investor first, and my portfolio matches it, right? Investing is not always the most fun thing to talk about, especially during these times. DCAing, really, like what else is there to really talk about other than looking at, prior price swings and all that? But it's the most surefire way to come out on top and build wealth is to buy and hold great assets. This is only with the top 2, 5, 10% of assets. So I'll have 60+% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, a few alts, and then stables at all times. Okay. That protects my portfolio. That makes sure that that's the nest egg. That's what I'm building. And then I'll use the other 20, 30% of my portfolio, if that, to speculate and to buy other coins and alts and NFTs. And NFTs are more buy and hold collecting for me as well. But, NFTs sometimes, perps, all of that, I'm essentially using the other part of my portfolio to do the more day tradey things in an attempt to build more Bitcoin ETH Sol stables. Okay, so again, that's the name of the game for me. Most of my port in the investor bucket, use the other part of my portfolio to get more Bitcoin ETH Sol and stables. And some of these coins I will hold long term too. Right. So I hope that answers your question. It's about having most of your portfolio and focus, or really most of your portfolio set up in the investor bucket. I should really have a visual for this. The investor bucket, and then the other 30% in the day trader bucket, which you may talk about. That might take up more of your time, but you're not using 80% of your portfolio in pump fund meme coins. We've seen how that goes down for most people. Shout out to everybody who's retweeting, liking, all that. Really appreciate it. If you guys could get the bookmarks going, all that, it helps a lot. Seriously. Printing during the bear, hell yeah. New all-time high, 6 to 8 months. Looks right. I could see it, man. Like I said, especially if we get this move down here pretty accelerated, I think we're more likely to get the bottom in the summer, fall versus the winter, like a lot of people are anticipating. So I know I just went on a 47-minute chart rant. I do want to go over some other stuff that's going on right now. Obviously, since we went on the stream last, Trump kind of came out and did this press conference about Iran and the oil market. Before we look at his speech, we obviously saw oil go on the most insane run. Went from dude, this is incredible. And I hate to be this guy, and I'm not even gonna talk too much about it. But as you guys can see here, this was drawn here, like right here at October 25th. I was like, okay, this is an obvious corrective coil up to me on the weekly and daily. I thought we might have come down a tiny bit more, but I kind of even wrote down a thesis in my notes about how Iran conflict could obviously cause an oil shortage. But of course, like the freaking on top of it, motherfucker, I just wasn't paying attention to it, looking at crypto, Bitcoin, all that shit, and then obviously a couple days ago, it just went on the most insane run. Oil went from $66 a gallon to, I'm sorry, is that 67 up to 120, almost doubled in a month's time. Went on the even crazier run yesterday. It gapped up over the weekend over 20%, proceeded to then go up another 20% after that, and then gap down 10%. Hold on one second. I apologize. Somebody called me, but it then proceeded to cap or go down 10% after Trump's entry, right, or Trump's talk, which we'll talk about here in a second. The one thing that we can, let me just get into Trump's thing real quick. Let's see if this small.
Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture?
No, not that one. This one.
New supreme leader. And secondly, can you tell us more about your call with Russian President Vladimir Putin today?
Yes.
What did you discuss?
Yes, I had a very good call with President Putin. We had a lot of people on the line from our side, from his side. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And look, there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful. I said, you could be more helpful by getting the Ukraine-Russia war over.
What?
That would be more helpful. But we had a very good talk. And he wants
He's
to
just talking low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you guys can hear that very loudly. So he pretty much says in there that the war in Iran could be over very soon. He's talked to Putin, because the whole thing around Iran, a lot of people, Russia and Iran are very, they're close because if the Middle East were to like lose Iran and they were to go on like Israel were to kind of take over, it would be like a key kind of strategy or strategic area for Russia. A lot of people think that if the US were to nuke or just like kind of bomb Iran in a certain way, Russia could retaliate, which would start that world war. And the fact that Trump is saying he talked to Iran, a lot of people think that, or I'm sorry, talked to Russia, kind of maybe points to the war being over, right? I want to let me know in the chat. Do you guys think Trump is fucking bluffing and that they're going to call their bluff, or do you think this war is going to be over? Do you think it's going to continue? I personally think, just from other stuff I'm reading, that Trump would obviously, U.S. would love for it to be over, but you see Iran continue to say that they don't want peace, peace treaties or any kind of peace talks. And you also hear Trump saying that if they continue the war and they continue to strike uh, new places and new, U.S. bases and stuff, that they would hit even harder. So if I had to guess, I don't think this thing's over. Um, as far as oil, it's really tough to say. I'm personally just sitting out of this thing unless I see a really strong setup on the lower time frames, maybe some consolidation. But if Iran, the Strait of Hormuz is not the whole situation there is not settled there either. For all I know, oil just rockets up to all time highs. I'm personally sitting out, but I think we can, we can learn one thing from here, right? Is being prepared for these kind of situations in the on these long term setups can yield big gains. But the biggest lesson I think we can learn from this is do not chase this type of thing. There's plenty of people I know on Twitter who are like, "Oh, you can trade U.S. oil on Hyperliquid. Like, I'm gonna go long it, around here, right here," and they just get absolutely wrecked. I'm not sharing my screen. Timing is really big when you're talking about short term speculation. Not time, like throwing a time on there, but timing these kind of things. So I'm personally staying out of this. I could see oil going like doing something like this, but I could also easily seeing it, come down as well. So if I had to guess, I don't think the Iran conflict's over. If I had to guess, I think Iran's probably going to strike again, which is going to restart this thing. And a lot of people think it's going to last a long time. We would love for it for this the sake of people and human life and all this for it to end, and for the markets probably too. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, I really want it to be over. Yeah, for sure. On this war, if tensions escalate again, do you think crypto acts as a risk asset or safe haven? Yeah, it probably acts as a risk asset like it always has. Shit, it almost exited out. But yeah, Trump. We'll see what happens there. Let's go to the bookmarks really quick. I had some other stuff saved. Oh yeah, Meta acquiring Book today. I want to share more of this AI stuff that's going on. I'm kind of starting to dive more, watching more long form content on AI so that I can talk more about it and really to start use it in my own kind of stuff as it actually has these crazy use cases. Uh, Meta acquiring Moltbook. Moltbook, for those of you guys don't know, was that AI kind of social media where all these agents were joining. Pretty crazy. Obviously, Moltbook, Facebook, Meta. It's pretty. Uh, it's a nice fit. Two guys. This guy kind of goes over it in this video. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where kind of what Meta gleans from this. As it, are they gonna kind of take it and implement stuff into Facebook and for AI agents? Are they gonna actually use Moltbook? And I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I haven't not used this myself yet personally. Let me know in the chat if you guys have used Moltbook or I know there's a lot of stuff around it because there's a coin and all that stuff, but it's super interesting. AI agents joining social media. Um, you got to think this type of thing is the future. What else? What else? What else is going on? U.S. intelligence assets have begun to see indications Iran is taking steps to deploy mines in the Strait of Hormuz shipping lane, which is crazy. Earlier today, there was a report coming out that oil tanker was through Strait of Hormuz, but then later on, the U.S. Energy Secretary did not make this claim. He deleted the tweet. So it does seem like the Strait of Hormuz, I can't even pronounce it, is still closed, and that's why I think we're seeing oil start to creep up a bit here. Is that going to continue? I don't know. I'm not really going to place a long here. I'm just going to stick to crypto right now. But yeah, I could see if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, maybe Iran does another strike on the U.S., a U.S. base or an Israel, or in Israel or wherever else. You could definitely see oil start to spike up again. At that point, things do get very interesting in the U.S. Um, you know, you're already seeing gas prices where I'm at here creeping up above four, high fours. In LA, it's like $5. It's fucking insane. But yeah, we'll see. I could see it go either way. I'm potentially staying out. I think it's pretty constructed that it has held this bottom for more than a day now. If it is able to push above 90, I think it does push higher again. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on US oil. I'm going to go ahead and do that giveaway here in about 2 minutes. I want to do a little bit more reviewing. I appreciate everybody who shared, liked, comment, retweeted the stream and all that. Casey, I appreciate you from the Telegram chat. If you haven't already, check out two things for me. In the bio, Boss Man Calls. I know vast majority of you are probably in the channel already or, from the channel. Channel I've been running and posting in with my good buddy Boss Man since I joined up with him in November of 2023. And we post, we've caught a lot of great plays this year when the market was down, but especially when the market was popping. Um, great 10, 20, 30, 50x opportunities, but also education. I post all the tips and tricks and stuff I've learned over the years, giveaways, live streams sometimes. Obviously, Boss posts a lot of great stuff in there. So check it out if you haven't already. And then as well as BossBot as well. It's a kind of a news bot that's been really useful for a lot of people lately. Instant news updates on things in crypto, in the conflict from Iran. We're finding that it's hitting and coming up with notifications faster than a lot of these bots that have been around for a long time. So definitely check that out as well, so you can stay updated on everything going on in the world. BossBot on Telegram as well. Longing/shorting oil is really degen, but it really was fun. Let me know, not Ro. What have you been longing and shorting? What have you been doing exactly? Well, Bossman makes stream like this one. Bossman has yet to do any streams. I don't know if he has plans to do it ever, but that would be cool. We've talked about it doing it before. Telegram channel is really great. Bossman doing some really awesome work with the calls and stuff. Hell yeah. Let us see here. Let's see what else is going on. U.S. Navy. Let's see. Yeah, not much going on this year as far year. Not much going on. Let's say the past 30 minutes have been wild. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright posted that a U.S. ship has officially gone through the Strait of Hormuz. Markets loved it. Oil tanked. The idea that war was coming to an end started to have some legitimacy. Then he deleted the tweet, which got markets to think things aren't actually going well. Now Carolyn Levitt confirms that a U.S. ship has not gone through the strait, and oil is now pumping again. Yep. See how fast things can change, guys. So I personally, this is kind of my gauge from the 10 years of conflicts that I've kind of experienced. Again, this is a very different situation, but it's alike in some ways. I think Iran, they've had their leader completely taken out. This new leader is the guy's son, his dad, his mom, his entire family is essentially wiped out by the U.S. I think what's most likely to happen is they're going to continue to fight and probably strike something. It might not be right away, um, but that probably sends oil continue higher. That probably, you know, um, continues the war. Maybe crypto comes down more. Maybe it doesn't. But I'm, no war expert or macro economist. But this is just what I've noticed over the years of how these situations usually go, and how Iran, I think, is probably going to play this thing. I doubt they're going to just roll over from here. And let's hope that it's, it's as contained as possible, and for whatever that means. It's never good to see loss of life everywhere. It's tragic. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and do I'm gonna go and do that USDC giveaway right here. From the chat again. I appreciate everybody. I'm gonna do it from the comments of this stream tweet here. Appreciate everybody pulling up. Again, doing these streams Tuesdays, Fridays. As the market heats up, there's obviously going to be more and more plays. I want to go over a few setups here after this as well, but I said I'd do this stream at the top of the hour. I'm sorry, the giveaway. Let's see here. All right, the winner. I'm just make sure I didn't pick this person previously. Oh wait. All right. Yeah. Okay. You hadn't won before, so every congratulations, you are the winner of the USDC giveaway. Definitely shoot me a DM after the stream, and I'll make sure to get that to you. And appreciate you for being active in the chat and on the stream. Affinity, nice to see you, brother. So let's go ahead and see, as you got right as we were saying that oil is kind of coming up hard here. We have Bitcoin, ETH, Sol kind of chopping around. If you're just pulling up to the show right now, first of all, if you could like, comment, retweet, get those bookmarks going, much appreciated. But we went over for a vast majority of the show talking about how Bitcoin is showing a lot of similarities between now and December, January. And if we were to get another move down, I think that would probably be a final kind of leg down for Bitcoin, where we could kind of see that bottom form in June, maybe fall, something like that. Again, my bags are packed. If Bitcoin were to go up from here, I would love that. My quality of life, my net worth, everything would do a lot better. But this is just what I'm seeing chart wise right now. What I've seen in chart patterns over the last few years. This is kind of a really interesting setup here that I think has a possibility of playing out. Now, if we were to crush 72K with a weekly candle close this week, that would kind of invalidate it for me, and I would probably be looking for longs. But until then, until proven otherwise, this is the relevant setup for me, and the one that I will be looking to take advantage of going into later parts of the year if this plays out in the form of I will be short, I am short or will be shorting, as well as really timing these buys and going kind of heavier on the way down here. So yeah, I think again, if you get anything from these streams, I'm extremely bullish long term, midterm, especially even on crypto. I think on this next leg here, we're actually going to get adoption of the assets, but the technology. I think we're going to get in the next several years games, applications, different things using crypto in the background where people aren't even knowing that they're using crypto necessarily or blockchain, but it's going to be, I think, at the root of finance, technology, collectibles, gambling, or like speculation, of course, all of these different acts. I think the world is going to be powered by blockchain, and the great assets, especially the L1s powering those chains that everything will be put on, are going to do really well over the next few years. It's just about getting through these periods, surviving, as you want to call it, even though none of us are at danger. I mean, nobody who's in the war or anything like that. And we're talking about markets here. But quote unquote survive, meaning just get out on the other side of this with your portfolio intact, still some dry powder, some portfolio there with your your mind, not going insane. Then I think people are going to do extremely well as we get this adoption cycle over the next several years. So I'm personally fucking super excited. I've found it's really easy to get down into, I don't know, to get less productive and just feel like, what's the point to post 3 tweets a day or 4 tweets a day, or to put out the content or do a stream. But whatever that is for you, biggest thing I think anybody, whatever that is for you, let me finish the sentence before, whatever that is for you, just do it, because on the other end of this thing, you're going to be happy that you set yourself apart from most people who are just checked out and not even paying attention. But the biggest thing that, if you're listening to this right now, that you could do to go from little results to a lot more results next year is not at looking at looking at wallets and all that. That stuff's great, but is learning. You want to take. Most of the people are just watching fucking clips nowadays. The nuggets and all the value are in long form interviews nowadays. Luckily for you meme coin degenerates, there's actually interviews, and a lot of these meme coin guys are doing interviews and sharing their knowledge, whether through tweets or Thread guy had a lot of these guys on last year. That's why I think he's such a valuable part of crypto, is because he has on It's like Bankless. Bankless for me, like I learned so much from their videos and what they had going on, like in their stuff, because they had so many great guests on. I used to watch 2 or 3 of those interviews a day sometimes. 2-hour interviews from expert traders who have traded through decades, founders in different companies, all these different things. That's where I learned the most. That's where you're going to set yourself apart from everybody else right now, is learning, whether that be learning from meme coin guys, whether these streams, I hope these streams over the last year and a half, not only have we made a lot of money or caught some gains, but I hope people have learned a lot from these streams, these interviews, different things. Pick 3 to 5 creators that you have the results you want, or at least appear that they do, and that they, are teaching you something, and learn as much as you can from them, especially if they have streams like this as well, where you can kind of ask questions and all that. If you do that over the next 3 to 6 months, a year, whatever it takes for this bear to be over, you're going to be set yourself apart from 90% of people who just chase when everything's going up and then check out when everything's going down. Bro, you bring max value. Appreciate you. Thank you, Cruzo. Thanks for the insight, Brent. Stay safe, y'all. Yeah. With that, good advice, brother. Yeah. With that, let's go ahead and look real quickly. I know I'm just looking at make sure I hit everything that I put in there. Usually, also, I want to talk about midterm years when they apply to crypto. And another reason why I think we could get a move down kind of into the summer is that midterm years for crypto have historically been bearish for risk assets. Okay. Obviously, for crypto, we've only had we've had one, I guess we've had 3 elections now, 4 elections, but midterm years or 4 election cycles. But Bitcoin's still tracking the average of prior midterm years. Midterm years have tended to underperform. As you guys can see here, what is this year? 2026. The last midterm year was 2022. As you guys can see, let's see. The last midterm year was 2022, which obviously was a down year. Yeah, the midterms are in November. So obviously the midterms were a down year, literally down only from the beginning of the year, pretty much. Shit, I'm not sharing my screen. Uh, was pretty much down only in 2022. Let's see, what was the last one? 2018, same kind of thing. Was kind of down only. Midterm years historically for crypto, the last 2 have not been bullish. So what we're seeing here, we actually, for the last midterm year, we got a rally into March. We got a rally into March in 2022. Then things collapsed. What did we get last year or in 2022? Midterm, we got in March, we got a rally and then down into the kind of the rest of the year. Oh, no, wait, that was 20. Okay, we're in 2022. So my bad. Yeah, we got a rally into kind of March, June, and then came down after that. So do we get a repeat of that? I think that's probably what's most likely. It's another, this is coming from somebody who said the 4-year cycle wasn't going to play out, but we're starting to see a lot of these same kind of secular things from last cycle kind of play out one more time. And I think this is going to be another one of them. Just so much hesitancy from Bitcoin right now. This does not scream impulse to me at all. It screams end of correction, and we'll see if and when we get that move down here. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate everybody for being here, especially during this time. You could be anywhere else. So I appreciate you pulling up, hanging out with me. Whenever this period ends, whether Bitcoin does the exact opposite of what I have drawn here and just goes straight to all-time highs or comes down, I think long-term best is yet to come. Focus on that. Focus on the long-term time horizon. Set up your portfolio for success in that investor bucket. And with that being said, guys, I forgot to do it. I kind of did it at the top of the stream, but I want to do one real quick chart lesson that'll take 2 or 3 minutes. Kind of a recurring theme I want to do every stream here, called it like a chart workshop, where I talk about one subject chart wise, that you can kind of take with you to hopefully help you kind of see these charts, to your advantage. Because again, I'm not a big indicators guy. I don't use Fibonacci and RSI and all this different stuff. I know a lot of people have success with that, but I'm really big on market structure and focusing on these 3 phases: impulse, impulse, correction, peaks, and kind of using those, more structure. And I think everybody can use charts. Everybody looks at them, whether they, use and put charts and mark up them or not. Everybody uses them. I think there's certain principles that everybody can take to improve their life as an investor, trader, especially. So the first one we're going to talk about today was a little bit of what I talked about on the top of the show, which is every asset, doesn't matter, crypto, stocks, metals, oil, um, anything with a candlestick charts or even line charts, is in each of those asset classes. Every asset is in one of 3 phases at any given time. The 3 phases, we'll start with the first one. The most obvious one to see is impulses. Impulses are these big moves up or down, just for an extended period of time, right? Big green candles for, think the big crypto bull runs, or bear markets, where price is going up or down for a long period of time. This is the moves that everybody wants to catch, right? You want to be holding Bitcoin when it's impulsing to the upside. Then there's corrections. Corrections come in between. They're the pullbacks or cool offs in between corrections. In between impulses before it continues to the upside or downside. On the higher time frames, what we're looking at in this bear market is a correction, but on the lower time frames, it's an impulse, right? And then we have peaks, which are tops or bottoms, that, and tops or bottoms, pretty much, right? Each of these phases have distinct characteristics, which I'm about to go over here right now. Determining and identifying these characteristics in these things can help us determine what phase we are in the market in that given time, and therefore what we should be doing to catch the next phase or to anticipate the next phase. Okay. Again, real quickly, we're going to go into more of these in-depth concepts on the next streams, but real briefly, impulses are big moves up or down, extended period of time. These are you want to be in these position before them and taking profits on the way up during them. Okay. Big moves up. It's really self-explanatory for impulses. Corrections tend to be choppy and form these corrective channel or coil ups or wedge type structures. Price will move down or up, but it's usually in a choppy like fashion. Remember I told you about Bitcoin earlier on the higher time frames? Same kind of thing. Being able to identify corrections and position ourselves for the next impulse has been my bread and butter for the last 5 years, right? That's how we caught a lot of these great moves over the last few years, is not being extremely early, but positioning ourselves during pullbacks when everybody else thinks we're heading to zero. And then the third characteristic, or the third phase, is peaks, which are tops or bottoms. Peaks, for the most part, the biggest characteristics of the peaks are usually consolidation. Before price reverses to the upside or downside, usually it has to kind of distribute or accumulate and kind of go sideways before price can go down. Very rarely do you get just a V-shaped bottom where price is down one day and up a bunch the next and never comes back. So that's kind of the biggest thing, right? When you're looking for when you're looking for peaks, is consolidation. Okay. We'll go more into each distinct phases on the next weeks of the streams. But really to recap what I'm saying is every asset, and go and back test this today, every asset in the world is in one of these 3 phases: impulse, correction, peaks. And determining which phase we're in can help us determine what we should do going forward, whether it be positioning ourselves for a correction or taking profits on the way up for an impulse, or kind of shorting or getting out of an asset or positioning an asset for a bottom or a top. Doing these things can automatically separate ourselves from most traders who are looking at these charts blind and have no fucking clue what they're looking at. So with that, I hope that helped you guys. Definitely shoot me a DM if you want to learn more. I can send you more stuff today, but we're going to go over more of these this stuff in the streams, and I'm going to go over each of these distinct characteristics and how you can use them to your advantage in your trading almost immediately. Like once you see this stuff, you won't be able to unsee it. I'm excited to share this stuff with you guys. I have a lot over these past streams in the Telegram channel, but I know there's a lot of new faces, a lot of people who really want to get this stuff down during the bear. So I'll make sure to stay consistent with that. With that, guys, it was been a great stream. I've had a lot of fun. Been really getting in the swing of things. Tuesdays, Fridays, every week at 11:30. Sometimes I'll be a little bit later, but I'm trying to stick to close to that time as possible. Crypto Batman still tripping. Not Joe, Cruzo, Affinity, Crypto Comrade, Big KC, Dookie, Zephyr, Crypto Carl, of course, who I know is obsessed with Bonnie Blue. Crypto Comrade, I said Mike Bean, not Rojan, still tripping, like I said, Saad, everybody who showed up today. I appreciate you guys so much. Crypto Basant, shout out to you. It's been so much fun. Definitely pull up next time. And best is yet to come. Be safe out there, both in the real world and in the crypto world. And just survive this time. Like I said, best is yet to come. I really do think we're on the precipice of crypto really just like backing and being like the backbone of all the world's technology, finance, collectibles, everything. And we're here, towards the beginning. So with that, don't dox, bro. Why are you saying that? Looking forward for next one. Looking forward to the next one. Good advice, bro. Don't dox, bro. Why are you saying that? I'm actually planning on doxing soon. This was my first stream. Definitely pulling up next time. Appreciate you, Crypto Batman. I'm curious. Did you see us from the Telegram channel? For the Bonnie Blue kink. No, that's all you, bro. That's all. That's your. You don't have to project onto me, Crypto Carl. This was my first stream. Definitely pulling. Yeah. Real quickly before I, take off. Crypto Batman. I'm curious. Oh, from the channel. Okay. Cool. Cool. All right, guys. Like I said, hope everybody has an amazing day. I will see you on the next one, Friday, 11:30 a.m. PST. Please let me know in the DMs if this is your first time on the stream, and then if there's anything you'd like to see in the streams to improve upon it, anything you liked. I always appreciate the feedback. Love you guys. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and